Welcome back to On Texas Football's Wednesday night Longhorn Livestream. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined with CJ Vogel and special guest tonight, Rob Babers is joining us, filling in for Jeff. Super fun to have you on, Rod. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be on with you guys. It's always a good product, so I'm glad to be a part of the crew.
Super big news to talk about. The injury report for the week just dropped, and we have some interesting additions to this. We have O-line Cole Hudson, wide receiver Aaron Butler, linebacker Jonathan Cunningham, doubtful CJ Baxter. I feel like that's something we probably expected at this point. Questionable Xavier Felsami, Connor Stroh, that's another new name to the injury list, and Murad Watson. So some significant hits to the O-line here.
Yeah.
What are we thinking about that as far as adjustments going into Kentucky? Because it kind of feels like Texas was kind of getting in a groove with the direction this O-line was going. Obviously, still some improvements to be had, but some work to do now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Cole Hudson makes it through the Oklahoma game, and you get to the week of practice, and here you are popping up on the Wednesday injury availability report. Obviously, for the first injury availability report to have you as an indication that you are out, it's a pretty severe.
Yeah.
It's not a nick or a bruise, right? It's significant. Now, in terms of severity, I don't know how long he will be sidelined, but for this weekend, he will not be on the sidelines or on the field for the Longhorns against Kentucky. I do expect Connor Robertson to be the center for Texas. He received some starting snaps this morning as well. So Texas will move in that direction. Amanda, you mentioned Texas found some groove in the outside zone game, especially with Nick Brooks and running off that right side as well. Well, you're going to have to stick with a fourth-year guy like Robertson who knows the calls, knows the scheme, knows what Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian want to do offensively. And he's been asked to play in some big games before, right? 2023 Oklahoma, he has to step in. The other two names new for me. Jonathan Cunningham, not sure how he was dinged up. And for Aaron Butler, I'm not sure how he was dinged up. All in all, I don't think it's anything too significant. We hadn't seen either of them on the field all too often this year. But Rod, right now, it's all about getting that offensive line continuity back to what we saw in the back half of that Oklahoma game. And going on the road, center-quarterback connection is going to be very important playing in the SEC.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you talked about how they found some of their identity in the run game, especially with CJ Baxter out, with Trey Wisner, and it was based on the outside zone. They were averaging, I think Trey Wisner was averaging nearly 6 yards per carry just on outside zone runs against Oklahoma. And I feel like with CJ Baxter being doubtful, and to me, that probably means CJ Baxter's going to be out again. The outside zone is probably going to be, once again, kind of your bread and butter run concept. So to be changing up things on the offensive line doesn't really help that. They have to work as a unit, a lot of continuity, a lot of subtle nuances to blocking those outside zone concepts. It felt like they figured some things out against one of the best defensive fronts in the country. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Connor Robinson stepping in, hopefully is a guy who's already done it before in a crisis situation. And he's getting some starting reps because he's out early, or at least he knows that at this point, Cole Hudson is out early. So all throughout the week, I'm sure he's getting first team reps, to your point about the quarterback and center exchange and their chemistry. So I think they'll be okay if they can find that groove once again in the running game against Kentucky. I mean, between the injuries and between just offensive line inconsistency, I mean, that's been a work in progress all season long. The best we've seen of that group all together, at least recently, was that Oklahoma game. Hopefully they can pick up where they left off there. One of the other names on here that's concerning is Murad Watson.
Yes, it is.
Now you're deep at the D tackle position. I'll give you that. I mean, because you got Hero Canoe, you got Alex January, you got Travis Shaw, you got Cole Brevard. I mean, you're pretty deep there. You got 4 or 5 guys you can depend on, but you're going up against a physical running attack. In Kentucky, they want to run the football, and they got a physical back that can do it with. So you do need those big bodies in there, and you like to rotate, platoon those guys and rotate them to keep them fresh. So that's a little concerning that you're a little lighter there at D tackle, and that's going to be one of the areas we know Kentucky's going to try to attack because that's a strength of theirs offensively.
Yeah. How do you guys think that they're going to adjust, that Sark will adjust just the scheme, considering all of these injuries or potential injuries. Obviously, some of these still questionable. They may be good by game time, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see much change. I think you're going to be able to run very much the same thing that you were able to run against Oklahoma. Obviously, you're going to need snaps to be exactly where they were from Cole Hudson. But altogether, I think you have a very similar skill set with Connor Robertson. I think, that lateral quickness is there. He's a little bit smaller. Connor Robertson, about 6'3", 305 pounds, maybe 308. I'll give them up to that. But altogether, I think as long as your guards are playing the way that they are in that outside zone scheme, Rod, you should be able to have as much success against a Kentucky. And this should carry over against Mississippi State as well, though Mississippi State on that defensive line, much bigger than I think folks are giving them credit for. So it's worth mentioning that at the moment. But right now, I don't expect there to be a whole lot of drop-off in terms of what Texas is able to do offensively. And if that's the case, that's how you continue to build week in and week out. The one thing for me, how important is diagnosing fronts and potential blitz object or threats on the road under the lights in the SEC environment. That's going to be something Connor Robertson hasn't done yet this year or in his career.
Yeah, and if I'm Kentucky, I don't know, exactly. I got to go back and try to see how often Kentucky runs, interior twists and stunts in games and how often they attack with blitzing the interior gaps. But if I'm Kentucky and I see a team starting centers out, I'm attacking that area, especially in pass protection. So simulated pressures, I'd assume that if Texas is in some predictable passing situations, which is why what CJ said is even more important, the running game, you want to make sure you stay out of third and longs, try to stay in third and mediums and third and shorts. If that is indeed the case, and you end up in a predictable passing situation, where they're going to attack. I mean, they'd be crazy not to attack the backup center for Texas. So I think he will get tested. And from that sense, with Sark and the game planning, I think Sark may, we'll see if he avoids the deep shot like they did against Oklahoma. There, you had a couple of 20-plus yard passes, but there weren't any deep shots downfield, like those vertical shots that Sark loves. In this game, Kentucky's pass defense is one of the bottom pass defenses in the SEC. I mean, it's one of the worst pass defenses potentially in the country, and I think Sark could go after them. But I wonder if he'll taper some of the shots downfield and maybe curtail that because he may be worried about the pass pro. That's something to look at too in terms of the game plan for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where I saw this, but I did see somebody post somewhere that Sark had finally adjusted to where his game plan was more like he had a questionable O-line. He made his game plan to where to just make up for that fact. Mm-hmm. And so when you say you think the scheme won't change as much, you think he'll continue that?
Yeah, I mean, CJ, you had a great stat. I'm going to let you bring it up because I don't want to butcher it. But it talked about the average depth of target compared to the Florida game to the Oklahoma game. But I would just point out how many screens they had early. I think they threw like 8 screens in the game. 6 of those were like on the first 3 drives. So Sark was quick, clearly thinking about modifying the game plan to get the ball out of his hands and to have no deep shots downfield the entire game. We know Sark, he kind of bakes those into the game plans usually. And that's one of Arch's strengths, right? It's one of his X-Man abilities. He's completing over 50% of his deep passes, which is crazy, 20 yards or more down the field. But Sark, I think, decided I'm going up against one of the best, if not the best pass rush in the country. It'd be ill-advised for me to put this young man in harm's way continuously like that. Well, let's try to get the ball out of his hands quickly, get him into a rhythm. And after a while, Arch's instincts took over. Yeah. He started avoiding free rushers, started extending plays, scramble drill. And I think after a while, it will take over. Just protect them long enough to try to see if you can get the offense into a groove and into a rhythm. And I don't see the running game did that. The running game will take care of all of this too. If you can run the football, we ain't got to worry about, the Sark have to modify and adjust the game plan. Once the run game works and you're out of third and long and you're in third and medium and third and short, that is much more achievable for the offense on a down-to-down basis.
Yeah, Amanda, to your point, I think you have to operate as if you have a makeshift offensive line moving forward. In a way, you do, right? You have 2 guys that are making their first and second career start and third career start with Robertson and Brooks moving forward. I feel like you like what you have at the tackle spots. Obviously, DJ Campbell's been in the fold for about 3.5 years now, but this isn't the offensive line that you expected coming into the year. The strength of this team isn't up front. Now, it could grow into that, but you can't have Arch sitting in that pocket like a sitting duck, essentially, and allow him to take as many hits as he did against Florida. That's just not a winning recipe. So I hope that there's a fine balance between the deep shots, maybe some movement of the pocket. I do think Arch has grown into a very good quarterback when moving. His throws on the run, moving outside the pocket. Rod, we've seen something over the last week and a half or so that we just haven't seen previously. So that is encouraging. But yeah, when it comes to that overall pass protection, that offensive line pass setting, you kind of have to be aware that you're working with a backup left guard, really a fourth string backup left guard and a backup center now. And it doesn't matter who you're playing in the SEC. These guys got dudes. You got to make sure that that's top of mind for you moving forward.
And on that subject, CJ, MJF with a good question here. Was it that Sark didn't call any deep routes at all against OU, or Arch elected not to throw his pass to the deep route?
It's Rod. I'm not sure what you saw, but it didn't feel like there were anything specifically designed to go deep. We saw more screens, we saw more, and I've been critical of the offensive line, and I think it's part of the game plan that they had as well. But look, Texas had 12 tackles for loss offensively. They were behind the lines of scrimmage pretty often, and it's not just because of the offensive line's fault. But hey, you got to block better on the perimeter, right? Texas got the ball out quickly. They wanted these guys to have the opportunity to create after the catch, and one of those big third downs of Trey Wisner was the exact kind of example of letting them do just that. But you have to block on the perimeter. You have to make guys miss. And Texas didn't do a great job of that early on, and it bit them. So I thought the game plan very early was just work. Get the ball out. Don't take the negative sacks. Don't let Arch get hit, and we'll live to see another down.
Yeah, and I will say that Arch seems to embracing the check down more a little bit. Right, we've seen the check down happen, at least successful check downs where they are extension of the running game. Essentially, they get you 5-6 yards, or every now and then Trey Wise will just break one for maybe an explosive play. So I think that's part of it. Also, there is something happening with the scramble drill and him scrambling too. He's really effective scrambling, and they've become more effective as a receiving core in the scramble drill. Like the last part of that Florida game and in this game, in the Oklahoma game, I think that I got 5 scramble drill plays overall in this Oklahoma game. 2 of your big third down conversions were in the scramble drill. So to CJ's point, he's good on the move, and the wide receivers now are starting to figure out, the chemistry with him. When do I need to break this route off? Oh, when he escapes the pocket, what's my, obviously, what's my next move? What's the adjustment by me in the routes? And I think Sark is going to perfect and practice the scramble drill more. And that's also, I think, part of why, you don't get necessarily the deep shots downfield, because you get receivers adjusting their route. So I think it was more game plan. They did not call deep shots. I felt like they weren't calling deep shots, more so than Arch not taking the deep shots. And remember, some of Sark's deep shots are predetermined. We know this kind of based on how the quarterback reads it. He's like, it's predetermined. That guy's going to be, I'm scheming that guy open. He's going to be open. Just got to make the throw on time and make it accurate. So I didn't see a lot of predetermined deep shots either, in my opinion.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about Sark's teleconference today with the SEC coming up right after this. Y'all make sure to get in your questions. Once again, super chats will jump to the top of our list. But first, let's hear from our friends over at South Point. Rod, take it away.
Yes, thank you to our friends over at South Point Dodge. We appreciate them and their ongoing sponsorship and support of On Texas football. You can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in the all-new Ram 1500, proven to last. And also, you get employee incentive pricing with our friends at South Point Dodge. That's their fancy way of saying you get the employee discount right now at South Point Dodge. You won't find a better deal than that. You pay what the employees pay at South Point Dodge. That's the real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. You can go see them in person off of I-35, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com. Whether you need a car, truck, trade-in, something new, something used, South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. So get to the point at southpointdodge.com.
So Sark participated in the SEC teleconference today, and as you've said before, CJ, he didn't really say all that much, especially about the news of Gibson and Will Stone leaving yesterday. But We did get some insight on some potential addition to the running back room. We've gotten a couple questions on it too. So Michael Terry, what do you know about this? The potential addition there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like as of late last week, early this week, Michael Terry has been getting some looks in the running back room. That is, of course, exciting for anyone who's watched Michael Terry's tape out of high school. You saw him all over the field. Wide receiver, H-back sniffer in the backfield as a running back. Obviously, he was a Wildcat quarterback, threw a couple passes as well. He did everything for Alamo Heights a year ago, and obviously was a borderline 5-star prospect as a result. So plenty of talent. And now to see him getting some time in Chad Scott's room, I think that's exciting for all. I did hear that Michael Terry, I've reported it late last night on Tuesday evening, that he was getting some looks in that running back room. And with the departure of Jarrett Gibson, with CJ Baxter's immediate status up in the air, and we're still waiting to hear back on, where Ricky Stewart might be in this pecking order. Texas getting a look at, a really intriguing athlete, Rod. I think that's exciting for a number of reasons, but altogether, let's see if he can find a way onto the field.
I love it. I think it's great. I mean, we were talking about how maybe they wanted him to not master a position, but at least get a good foundation at one position before trying to experiment and move him around. Maybe now, just because of the departure of Jerry Gibson, you just have room to do it. And maybe at wide receiver, there's not a path to the field right now for Michael Terry. And maybe if you're looking at ways that he can contribute, or looking at the future prospects for him in terms of how you want to utilize and weaponize him. I've always said I want him to be kind of the Kyle Juszczyk of the Sark offense, right? A guy you can put him at tailback, you can put him at fullback, you can put him at H-back, you put him at tight end if you want to. You can split him out at wide receiver, a guy that adds multiplicity to your offense. In order to do that, though, you do have to learn all the different positions. So I'm glad that he's getting a look now at running backs. I'm sure by now he's gotten a good kind of knowledge base of the wide receiver position to start off. I don't know if he's mastered it yet, but I'm sure by now that he knows exactly what he needs to do and how to execute at that position. And now they're looking at him at running back. Who knows? By spring, they may be moving around to that cowboy back a little bit. I think it's great that they're moving him to a different position. I don't know if this is permanent, like he's going to be a running back. I would love to think that it's something that they are working on, kind of a part of a macro plan and a larger idea to weaponize him in the future.
Yeah. I was at that first game, by the way, that you just saw in the clip there. I did want to bring up this comment from Colby. I thought Bobby said Stewart hadn't been with the team for a month now. Look, I didn't know if that cat was out of the bag or not. But, yeah, we haven't heard of Ricky Stewart being at practice or being around the facility for quite some time now. So I'm not sure what the situation is there. But right now, again, Texas moving forward, finding new capable bodies to play in that running back room. The one thing I will add about Michael Terry, that's a body that could add some protection for you and pass protection. He can sit there and take a hit or provide a hit for you, in which that hasn't been a strength of really anybody in this room at the moment so far this year. If you want to find a way onto the field as a true freshman, look, the number one thing that you could do is lay your hat in the weeds and find ways to protect for your quarterback.
Okay, we know there's been certain packages, exotic looks that have disappeared from Sark's offense because the personnel changes. So I think Sark comes up with different ways to weaponize guys, different roles for them. Could he be your Wildcat guy? You hadn't had a Wildcat guy. Wildcat, I know Sark kind of liked it in terms of the short yardage situations. And I know Arch right now is your red zone kind of short yardage guy too, because he's got that ability. But in order to kind of, take some of the burden off of Arch, especially in short yards where he's getting pounded. I know they like the quarterback sneaking out, so they don't need the Wildcat as much. But Michael Terry and the Wildcat sounds intriguing to me. Just throwing it out there. Sounds intriguing.
It does. Michael Terry, look, I thought maybe Nick Townsend would be a guy for that as well. That's a guy with the physicality, Rod, it's similar size. But no, Michael Terry absolutely would be capable. Now, the big question is, we haven't seen it from Sark since really Savion Red. Do they go back to it? Do they implement it at some point? It would make sense in the goal line to save Arch a hit or two. But that also might be the entire reason why we haven't seen it. It's because they trust Arch in those situations.
Exactly. You don't want to take the ball out of Arch's hands at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of questions. Speaking of the running back room, is there any concern that Baxter won't return this year or take a red shirt? What do you guys think about that? Because, it seems like we've talked about soft tissue injuries. They tend to linger. And if you come back too soon, you're kind of screwed. Do you think there's a shot at that? Or do you think he's locked in more than that?
No, I mean, this is a guy that wants to get on the field. And I understand the frustrations with the lingering injuries, but if you're CJ Baxter, you want to get on the field. You want to get this team back to the college football playoff. You've now seen 2 straight runs, one of which you were on the sideline for. So I've seen the conversations. I've heard some comments, and I've read the chat. Folks wondering, well, will we ever see CJ Baxter again? If it was up to CJ Baxter, he'd be on the field. And I think obviously it's unfortunate that he's been having to deal with some of these, hamstring soft tissue injuries for as long as he has. But no, I don't think there's a chance that he just packs it up and says, I'm done. Not this year.
Yeah, I agree with CJ. Not the young man that I met. I don't think he does that. Not saying that it's not something that you should consider if the circumstances arise where, those injuries linger and it keeps you off the field. But it's definitely, last case, not something he's thought about or thinking about right now. It's got to get worse, and knock on wood. I don't hope it's getting worse, and I don't think it is. I think he's trying to see the field. And if Texas offense keeps getting better, I think they got aspirations that, they can extend their season even more. I'm not going to jinx it. Got to be game to game here, but I think he's trying to see the field. I agree with CJ.
Mm-hmm.
They need him, by the way. They need him.
Yeah, very much need him. And speaking of the running back game and needing him, Arch Torrance with a question, James Simon breakout game. I think that's something a lot of people have been waiting for. I liked what we've seen from him so far. He's young. He's physical. I mean, why not? Except, Trey Wisner seems to be the main back right now.
That's kind of the big reason why not. We've seen 90% of the running back carries over the last 2 weeks go to Trey Wisner. You look back at that Florida game, you look back at Oklahoma, who was toting the rock? It was all Trey Wisner. Now, if you have more running back success, if your offensive line is displacing bodies up front, that should allow you to put in new bodies and still see that same success on the ground. Right now, though, with the way that Texas is running that outside zone, I can't point to a guy just yet and say you'll see something similar. And until that is proven otherwise, I think you're going to see Trey Wisner be that guy for you in the running game, regardless of situation, environment. It just won't matter. They're going to stick with the guy that they trust.
Yep. Exactly. He's going to be their workhorse back right now. But the question is, after whenever CJ Baxter gets healthy, knock on wood, Trey Wisner, who's the third back? Is he the third back now? Or is it still in a competition with Clark now that Jared Gibson is out of the picture? That's the question, I think, for James Simon, because honestly, the way things are looking, you're going to have a third back in there with CJ Baxter out to at least spell Trey Wisner. I mean, you're going to have to give him 6-7 rushes a game, or a certain number of snaps a game, whoever that guy is. Maybe you can break it down between him and Clark. But deep in SEC play like this, if he's good at running the outside zone, getting back to his point, which I think he actually is, I think he's actually one of your better running backs at running that outside zone, then he can end up seeing the field sooner. Because that's, whether they like it or not, that's going to, with CJ Baxter out, that's now part of their identity, a big part of it.
That's basically their entire identity, wouldn't you think, Rod?
Yeah, man, and I don't know. Brent Venable still ain't figured out how to stop the outside zone. That's 2 years in a row. Lift this dude up running the same outside zone concept. But I'm with you on that, CJ, in terms of what they do well and what they can count on. Your identity should be based on what you do as well as, if not better than everybody else. That's what they did well last year. They were top 10 in outside zone rate. Trey Wisner was top 10 outside zone rushing yards. And when he's healthy and the offensive line does have, some momentum and some continuity, that's what they were really good at. Now, I will say against Ohio State, they didn't run as much outside zone, probably because Sark is smart. He realized they stopped it, last year in the playoffs. They probably got a game plan to stop it again. And they ran more power concepts, but the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is they had Cedric Baxter. They had CJ Baxter there. So that's a big but that they need. Yeah. I don't know. I messed up my analogy, but you get it.
I mean, is that the first time you've heard the Rod?
I think so. That might be first time for everything.
Oh yeah, it might be the first time I brought it up.
I saw the eyes widen, and I was like, "Oh,
what was that?" It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. I like it.
She knows all those people. She knows who I'm talking about. She gets me.
Yeah. Real quick, I have heard that things are progressing with CJ Baxter right now, probably up in the air in terms of a 50-50. Right now, I believe, what was he listed as, Matthew, as doubtful? So maybe a little bit less than that for this upcoming Kentucky game. Yeah, doubtful. Thank you. But moving forward for Mississippi State, it sounds like 50-50 is where things are in terms of getting him back on the field. And then Texas will have the bye. And then at home against Vanderbilt, in which I would expect him back on the field for the start of November. And again, into that back swing of the regular season. And hey, who knows? Texas might go on such thing as a run and find themselves back into this contention for that 12-team playoff.
Yeah, we actually got a question about that. Do you think the OU game would ban this team and start a mid-season run?
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you need? I think a massive win over your arch rival who you were not picked to win against and who was ranked number 6 while you were unranked. What else do you need to get your spirit back on the right track and start a run?
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely think so. And the reason for that is something that we hadn't necessarily seen a whole lot of this year. And I thought Hero Canoe pointed it out in Monday availabilities probably more than anybody else or more than what I saw mentioned at all. But when Texas was on the field, offensively, the defense was up. When the defense was on the field, the offense was up. You know, it's that back and forth. And Rod, you could speak about this. When you have that support, when you have guys locked in on regardless of what side of the field is on the field, I mean, what side of the ball is on the field, that's huge, right? Just staying involved, staying up on the sidelines. It wasn't like that in Florida. In fact, I would say it was almost completely the opposite. That sideline felt completely dejected. Texas, I mentioned it in an article after the game in Florida. Michael Taft gets that interception on DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Defense is, up. They got a turnover. They run over the sideline. It's only a 2-possession game with about 8 minutes left, and you look at the offense, kind of, oh shoot, we got to go back out there. That was gone. And it was hey, I know we're not scoring touchdowns right now, but we're playing with some swagger. And I think the inclusion of Nick Brooks has changed quite a bit of that. He's playing with some nasty. Texas didn't play with any nasty at the left guard spot previously, so I do think a win like that can go a long way. Now you got to take care of business this weekend. You got to go to Starkville, take care of business as well, and then you can really start looking. You don't want to look bigger picture, but you can start thinking, okay, we've got this thing rolling right now. We can play and beat just about anybody. Let's see what we can do by the end of the season.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, we got a lot to talk about with the game coming up this weekend, road game against Kentucky. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, y'all, make sure you pop your questions into the chat. Once again, Super Chats, we'll jump to the top of our list, and we got one from Greg Allen. I know we've had our running back concerns, but your thoughts on OU's Jaden Ott? Dude was second to Mateer and being hyped, but have been non-existent. I mean, I saw the play from him where he looked like he was scared, but that's about all I've seen from him.
I thought he must be hurt or something, but I haven't seen much about injuries or anything like that. I'll admit during the offseason, and when he was at Cal, I thought he was a real impact player for them.
Oh, yeah.
But he has not really found his role with this OU offense. But I will, and considering that they don't have like special playmakers at running back, really, like they don't have, it's not like there's an elite group of running backs keeping him off the field either. So that's a concern. Like, I'm not sure. Yeah, I said the numbers would indicate like he's hurt. It's like, remember when Arch was playing so bad, people were like, he must be hurt. It's the only reason I can think he's playing that bad. But I will feel like that about Jay Knott, that was kind of the conspiracy, was that he must be hurt or something. But I said I haven't confirmed that, and there's no substance to that. But he's performing so poorly compared to what we've seen from him in the past. So yeah, I don't know how that was such a bad misevaluation by Oklahoma, but kind of goes to what we've talked about in this day and age, right? Spending money wisely. Right. I hate to bring this up. This is kind of off the path here, but like Texas Tech should be getting a lot of love now for their evaluations. Like,
yes,
everybody's spending money now, right? Everybody's going to spending money. Texas spending a lot of money. Ohio State spending a lot of money. But your evaluation, the people you're spending the most money on, they need to be showing up. And that's why Texas was getting criticized earlier. It's like, hey, you spend a lot of money on Arch, Ryan Wingo, Colin Simmons. Where are they? Right? And you need those guys to be impact players. Now Colin Simmons having big games. You see Ryan Wingo being an impact player. Arch Manning now rising to the occasion in big games. That's part of this narrative now with revenue sharing and with this new, billion-dollar sports industrial complex of college football. Who's spending their money wisely? Who's making the best evaluations? Remember, Oklahoma's plan was we're going to be a value-based system. We got our own system of evaluations based on value, not based on stars, all that. We'll see if it works out. Right now, I will say Texas Tech's formula and experiment's working out as good as anybody's right now. And it's just simply, we got FU money and we're gonna outspend everybody. And that's a good formula to have. But it seems like right now, ultimately kind of getting back to this, Oklahoma, and there maybe some misevaluations there when it comes to Jay Knight, because I bet he's one of the highest paid guys on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned their plan has been going to kind of that great value look. Well, look, if everybody else in the SEC is Cheerios, I mean they're the Honey O's. They're not even close to like the real thing, and that's how they've been playing the portal so far. When you go out and you spend a lot of money on a guy like Jaden, a guy who had 1,400 rushing yards 2 years ago, you expect him to become the guy. Now, I wish I could remove this hat and put my tinfoil hat on real quick, because I do have a theory on this. And no. We're keeping this hat on, Matthew. But I have a theory on it. And we've seen the power struggle over the last, 7 months since Jim Nagy has been hired.
Yeah.
Between Jim Nagy, Brent Venables, and his coaching staff, right? Their coaching staff no longer evaluates tape. They no longer dictate who they get to recruit. That's all Jim Nagy and his personnel department. Now, what was the big splash when Jim Nagy was hired? Oh, it was a bunch of D3 wide receivers, and it was Jaden Ott. Okay, well, you haven't had a great running back at Oklahoma since 2020, maybe 2021. It's been quite a while.
Yeah,
go out and you get Jaden Ott. And that's a big one. Folks are saying OTTOGO. Let's go. And the whole thing is, well, I think this is the coaching staff saying, hey, we're not just giving away playing time. We're not just giving away reps if these guys aren't going to come in here and perform or prepare the way that they need to. And that is what, if you listen to any interview so far with Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables so far, it's all, he's got to earn it in practice. And there's a whole reason why he's only got 21 rushing attempts so far this year. If it were me, if it would be up to anybody else, it'd be, hey, this is by far and away the best running back on the roster. We got to find a way to get him the rock. But I think it's in a way a little bit of a pushback from the coaching staff saying this has to be a way that we get some freedom back in terms of who the personnel decisions are and who dictate who gets on the field or joins this team. Because right now I don't think there's a whole lot of hand in hand right now in Norman, Oklahoma. I think my point to that is look at how Oklahoma's abandoned all of the DFW recruiting metroplex.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a good point.
To 60% of their recruiting class every cycle, it's completely non-existent. Right now.
And Sark's taking shots. I don't know, maybe not Oklahoma, but definitely after the game saying the reason we won is because of these DFW guys over here. And to your point, CJ, I wonder, guys, but Brent Venables seems like he's on the hot seat. A lot of people predicting he's going to be out. Is Jim Nagy going to fire him? Does Jim Nagy stay as the GM? He's a GM.
Does he have that authority?
Is he going to hire the next head coach, or does
it's weird, right?
The next AD hire the next head coach? Right?
Because to your point, Rod, that was another thing that I had heard in the summer. It was, hey, we don't really care from the Oklahoma personnel department. We don't care who the staff is, who the coaches are. We're going to recruit guys that we believe are good football players. It doesn't matter about scheme. It doesn't matter about, if they necessarily fit what they like to do on the field. We're just going to find one, the value, and two guys that we believe can be good football players or be developed into good football players. And that's not what what it's like. Like y'all watch Moneyball, right? You know the scene where the GM walks into the head coach's office and goes, "Why aren't we playing the first baseman?" He goes, "Well, he's hitting like $140. Like, why would we?" He goes, "I'm paying him because we have to play him." This is how it works. And the coach is like, why? He's an automatic 4 outs every time he comes up to the plate. That's what it feels like right now. And from afar in Norman. And so we'll see if it gets figured out. But right now, the Ott thing is one of the bigger surprises I've seen in all of the SEC play so far. And arrow kits, how about that? That was 10 out of 10 movie reference.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well
there you
done.
go. Better than I could ever do, honestly.
Well done.
I mean, personally, in my opinion, it couldn't happen to a better football program. But that's just my opinion. I know you love John Mateer, so apologies for his.
Don't have to see him again. That's great.
Yep. Well, we got a big game this weekend. Kentucky heading on the road in SEC play again, and obviously not at the top of the SEC, but not a team to overlook. What is you guys' evaluation on what, like, the keys to the game going into this game? I mean, OU obviously coming off of the high here, a lot of good things that you saw in that OU game, but still a lot to fix. I mean, headed into half, Texas had not gotten in the end zone, trailing by 3, not much going offensively. So what do you think needs to be adjusted to where Texas can hopefully get off to a quicker start, at least this game? I think that would be crucial, especially on the road. Obviously, OU, there's some aspect to it being a road game. You're on half of the field, it's a road game. You're on the other half of the field, it's a home game. But this is all road game. And so I feel like getting off to a better start than you did Florida is pretty key.
I think we saw the adjustment in that second half, and it was just quite a simple, hey, don't hold, don't jump off sides, don't false start. We got talent. We got the scheme to move the football. If you give me 3 downs, we can get 10 yards. That's Steve Sarkisian, right? Just don't make life more difficult than it needs to be. And in that second half, what were they able to do? They played penalty-free football. Yeah. They went, was it 14 plays and then 10 plays to put points on the board in that second half or that third quarter specifically? That's what it's like. And I thought against Florida, you look back at when they really needed to put points on the board in that second half as well. Well, they're dealing with 3rd and 30s. They're dealing with 2nd and 22s. And you can't put points on the board or sustain drives by living in those areas. So you got to play penalty free. You got to make sure that when you have to get 3 yards on a play, you get those 3 yards. If you get more, that's great. If you get less, hey, just make sure it's not a -4 or -5, whatever it is. And that still, to me, is why I worry just a little bit about this offensive line. And I mentioned it earlier. Texas had 12 plays that went for negative yards. That's a lot. Whether it's the screen plays, whether it's the 1 sack, the 7 rushes that lost yards as well, you can live with getting back to the line of scrimmage. That's an incompletion. Incompletions happen all the time. But when you start backing up into 2nd and 14s and so on and so forth, you make life so much difficult on yourself. So going on the road, starting quick, to me, is just stay on script, stay ahead of the chains. Every drive with a punt or a kick or a field goal attempt, that's a okay situation for me on the road. Your defense will survive. Yeah, no, he's right. The first quarter of that Oklahoma game, you had 3rd and you averaged 3rd and 21, I think. Oof. Average yards to gain. And the last 3 quarters, you were 3rd and like 6.5 yards to gain. So you were right 3rd and medium. And that is, in a nutshell, that's it. But a lot went into that. To CJ's point, you were winning on first down. And winning, I mean, basically not getting negative plays. To CJ's point, not getting the penalties to put you at 1st and 15 or 1st and 20. All right. So you weren't starting in a hole. And then on first down, it may be an ugly 3 or 4 yards, but it got you to 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 7. And then you could work with a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 2. Like, that's manageable. It may be even 4 down territory, depending on where you are on the field. So for Texas, that is it in a nutshell for the offense. Like, they got to figure out how not to avoid being their own worst enemy a lot of the time, whether it be execution. And also, man, how many times did Trey Wisner or Arch Manning avoid a negative play? You talked about 12 tackles for loss, and they had 1 sack. There were probably 4, 5 plays where Trey Wisner or Arch could have been tackled in the backfield. They just made a play and avoided a free rusher. So they're still a work in progress in terms of pass protection and run blocking. But if they can just find one concept, outside zone, that they can run really well, then they'll make up for it, because they'll pop one sooner or later. They'll get a couple of negatives, but then they'll pop one. And that's why they need a guy like Trey Wisner out there. That's when they miss a guy like Jaden Blue, you know. Jaden Blue, out of every 4 or 5, one's going to go for 20, 30. We all know that. And Trey Wisner got some of that in him too. But I just think ultimately that's what Texas is going to be in the running game, guys, this year. I hate to say it. They're going to get some negative plays, and then they're going to have to rely on kind of pop 1 or 2 or 3 runs to really make up for that. And
I think ultimately, could get them in a hole if they have too many tackles for losses in a row. But I think Sark's done a good job early on of trying to mix in easy completions. The question is, will that Oklahoma game plan carry over to Kentucky? Or will the offense look different? We don't really know yet.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about this Kentucky game. First, let's hear from our friends at Von Lane. From Texas football Saturdays to NFL Sundays, from ACL Fest to Formula One, this fall is stacked, and Von Lane has a smart way to get there. Forget TSA lines or fighting I-35 traffic. With Von Lane, you board in minutes at luxury hotel terminals. Then it's just 22 big first-class seats, each with Wi-Fi outlets and an onboard attendant bringing snacks, drinks, and yes, even beer and cocktails. You'll arrive relaxed and ready for kickoff, the concert, or family time. And with booking open through December, you can also lock in Thanksgiving and Christmas travel now. Go to vonlane.com, use code OTF25 and save $20 on your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. Make sure to get in your questions, guys. Once again, Super Chats will jump to the top of our list. Now, one thing that I noticed in the Florida game that I feel like, I feel like most people focused on the offense and just there was so much focus on Arch and how poorly he was playing going into the season. But the biggest thing I noticed at the Florida game specifically was the defense and how poorly the defense played comparative to what we're used to. You're used to the concept that defense travels. This defense only gave up 14 points to Ohio State. That game, first person to 20 points would have won. Texas scored 20 points in this Florida game, and the defense did not show up. So for the defense to show up on the road and against this Kentucky team, which has some really good running backs on it, what do you think, which is opposite as to what OU had? OU did not have a running game at all. What do you think needs to be adjusted here or focused on?
Oof, it's kind of the complete flip of what we just talked about for Texas, right? They have to find ways to create negative plays, those havoc plays. I think Texas only had one tackle for loss in that entire game against Florida. You know, we talk about having your edges stand up and make a game. The pressure from the interior needs to improve. Texas certainly had more of that, right? 5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss this past weekend in Dallas. That's great. That forces you not just as an offense to throw the football and put yourself in those dangerous situations with that pass rush once again, but it gets you off script and doesn't allow you to lean on a Seth McGowan or a Dante Dowdle. So Texas has to do exactly that. Play clean football early on. Do not allow, and this was an issue against Ohio State, 3rd downs and 4th downs. You cannot allow penalties to extend drives. Play clean football and back them up with your pressure up front. Also, this is one for me, Rod, where I see Anthony Hill and say, haven't seen a whole lot of you yet in terms of rushing the passer.
Yep.
Go get your first sack. I'm throwing him out, and that's another thing that teams moving forward are going to have to worry about.
Yeah, no, I love that. I don't know why he hasn't been used more on the edge and the NASCAR package. It's crazy. I think he has 0 sacks on the year, right? No sacks?
0.
That's crazy considering we all kind of predicted he could have double-digit sacks this season. And I think for Texas in this matchup, you know, they got to be ready for a diverse running game. When I watched for Kentucky, they run a lot of different run game concepts. I mean, you're going to see the counter. They're going to run duo. They're going to run outside zone, inside zone. They're going to run the insert. Remember Texas run where they put the H-back kind of inserting into that B gap. I mean, I just saw a lot of different run concepts. So I think what they'll try to do against Texas, see what works. And you'll see them tinker with a lot of things early on to see where they can kind of gain some traction, and then maybe try to focus on it. But what they have is a big physical back in Seth McGowan. And that's kind of, he reminds me a little, not reminds me, but Jaden Ball was like that for Florida. He was just a big physical back. Like he's going to break some tackles. Arm tackles ain't going to bring him down. And he can be a problem if he gets to the second level. And I think for Texas, I'm with CJ, I want penetration. You want to stop this guy in the backfield before he gets running downhill because I think he's an NFL running back. I think this guy's going to play on Sundays. So I think for Texas, it's a really good test. Their offensive line, not as good as Florida's offensive line. I don't think they have the mass that Florida has really. And I think Florida has better players on the O-line. But if I am Kentucky, I'm taking that Florida game plan, trying to execute as much of it as I can. Now, you ain't got DJ Lagway. Remember, they didn't do much with DJ Lagway early on.
No,
they didn't start, they didn't really start throwing the ball downfield till later after Texas put 8 in the box. Early on, it was easy, simple completion. A lot of crossing routes they ran. So if I am Kentucky, I'm trying to take that Florida game plan, especially with Texas on the road, see if we can replicate some of that.
Now what's going to be interesting, sorry to cut you off, Amanda.
No, you good.
One last thing I wanted to mention. If Kentucky can hit on a couple of those deep passes, that's when things get scary, right? They're going to test a Grayson Littleton. They'll test a Jalen Gilbo.
Yep.
You know, if Warren Roberson's on the field, I'm sure they'll look at him and say, hey, he's not Malik Muhammad, right? And that's where Florida in the second half really, that was their whole offense. They didn't have any type of offense. Texas stopped the run. There weren't many quick completions like we saw earlier on. But when Texas gets into that man coverage, what were the two big plays that put 10 points on the board in the second half?
Yeah.
It was the 60-yard throw to Grayson Littleton, or on Grayson Littleton, and it was the Dallas Wilson one-on-one win on Kobe Black. So that's where you got to be aware. And Kendrick Law, former Alabama commit coming out of Shreveport, it's a good football player. That's the guy that they rely on. And normally in that offense, they have a big body wide receiver like that allows them to play physical down the field on one-on-ones. That's where you got to be aware and not fall asleep if you're in that secondary.
Good point.
I got to say, Marco, I was actually very thrilled that my friend got married on this day when I looked at the score of the game, and it was a Longhorn wedding, and everybody expected me to be reporting back with the score. And it was in the hills in Vermont, or the mountains in Vermont, and I didn't really have service, and I was like, you know what? We're just turning this phone off. We don't even need to know the score of this game.
Just dump it right in the champagne.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting live updates, and I finally asked my friend Pate you can stop sending me that.
I'm good on that.
If we win, I'll be pleased. The same thing happened to me with the Arizona State game. Is I just had to turn off the TV, and then I went and laid horizontal on my bed, and I was like, I'll get the ESPN notification, and then I'll just rewind because I cannot watch. And then the ESPN notification didn't come, and we won the game. Yeah. I was like, well, I kind of wish I watched that live, but you know what? I think my heart rate appreciated that I did not watch it live.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think a lot of people are having PTSD from the Florida game and just going on the road and just laying an egg and just not having energy, essentially. So, yeah,
I think right now for the defense, it seems like an outlier of a performance for the defense. Seems like, that I compared it to, when you're like basically defense has passed every test this year, in my opinion, even the Ohio State test. I mean, Ohio State didn't score a ton of points on them. They've passed every test so far. Not saying they've been thoroughly tested, but that Florida game, it was such an off performance and so out of character. It's like when, you have a kid that aces every test in school and then they flunk one test and the teacher's like, he had to be sick, or maybe something going on at home, or, did you not eat that morning? Like, that's how I feel about this Texas defense. Like, they've been really good. And that day they were so bad that it felt like there must have been something going on. That's got to be an explanation for it. And it's probably not. It's just football now. There's more parity in the game, and it's just the way it is. You can have an off game kind of more like the NFL, but I haven't seen a PK defense get pushed around like that in a while. It's been a couple of years since we've seen a PK defense get punked like that. Yeah. That's why it was weird. So I don't think we're going to see that again. I think that was the wake-up call that they needed. That, hey, if you fall asleep, that can happen any week in the SEC. I said, Rod, how and why did Manny Muhammad have such an impact on Florida not being on the field and OU being on the field? I think CJ just said it. Those receivers, they got guys that help. They're going to play on Sundays. You need your best cover corners. There's no doubt Malik Muhammad made an impact, literally week to week. You have Malik Muhammad in that game, that's a different game. When you got shot to win that, have an outside shot to win that game with Malik Muhammad. Yeah, it's just that simple. And in that game versus Oklahoma, he was just a steadying presence in that secondary. You can tell you got a freshman, Grayson Littleton, who's probably your second best cover corner right now on the team behind Malik Muhammad. Honestly, he's probably better than Jalen Gilbo. And I think Manny Muhammad is kind of just a calming presence in that secondary among the corners, among the cover guys. And he's really steady and he's really consistent too. So, he was that much of an impact player, man. Right now he's playing at an all SEC level, like potentially a first team all SEC level. Just throwing it out there.
I like it. We
got a couple more comments to get to, but first let's hear from our friends over at Hay City Store. There are very few restaurants that once you go to, you immediately know that they are just special. Hayes City Store is one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts, all of it absolutely delicious, all of it from scratch. There's also live music 6 nights a week with 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. There are 11 TVs alone in their ice house, perfect for game days, and they even have brunch served 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Sunday. Hayes City Store is dog friendly, and they have a tree net for kids. Join the folks out at Hayes City Store and bring your whole crew. For more information, check out the website at hayescitysstoretexas.com. Hayes City Store, it is uniquely Texas. Got a couple more super chats to get to. We have one from Lane here. Thanks so much for the chat. Did Sark and Drayton ever have a relationship? Possible we get him back since Franklin got fired. Do you guys know anything about that relationship?
Yeah, Drayton was on staff whenever Sark was originally hired. Obviously, he went and was quickly hired by Temple to be their head coach. So, look, I don't know if there's, the desire to get back, but Texas feels like they have a good coach right now with Chad Scott, and I know that a lot of folks are looking at this running back room. I've seen a lot of comments about running back recruiting, a lot about running back development. I feel like you've just been bit by the injury bug. Folks are looking around saying, hey, I think, James Simon's a pretty good running back, and I'd agree. But look, C.J. Baxter injured. Christian Clark lost a whole year of development with an injury as well. So Trey Wisner this year been injured. It's just unfortunate in this running back room. I don't want to say that Texas doesn't have guys. I think they do. It's just all about getting them onto the field and making sure that they take advantage of their opportunities. But yeah, I don't know why there's been a lot of buzz about Stan Drayton, but we'll see, I guess.
Maybe everybody's watching Bijan Robinson with Falcons right now and just
that's a once in a 20-year span type of player, though.
Yeah.
Just missing him.
We do, yeah. That's right. Everybody just miss him. They do. He was awesome. Sarkisian too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Got a couple more super chats. In a hypothetical scenario, when the portal opens, pick one wide receiver and one running back from the portal: Dallas Wilson or Cam Coleman, Bothwell or Ball.
That is good.
It's a fun hypothetical.
Oh man, Bothwell. Fluff Bothwell, he's nice though. Mississippi State running back, right? Man, I like Jaden Ball. I might take Bothwell actually over Ball. I mean, I like them both though. That's a good mental exercise. Dallas Wilson or Cam Coleman.
Cam Coleman's fun, man.
Man,
Dallas Wilson to me, Rod, maybe.
Just saw him just at one time, right? That was his debut against Texas.
That was his debut. He set Florida debut records, like first game of their career records for receptions, targets, receiving yards, and touchdowns. So,
what did he do last week?
I didn't want to watch him again.
PTSD.
But no, he to me feels like a physical, like he's got that same appeal to me as like a DK Metcalf with more hip flexibility and more wiggle.
Okay.
Just a physical, big wide receiver that in one-on-ones, he can outrun you. He can go up, jump you. He's got that to him. But Cam Coleman to me is he could be right now in the conversation for having the 5th or 10th most yards in the country, except it feels like, Jackson Arnold's just throwing with his wrong hand is what it looks like. He's that I think Cam Coleman is my pick there. And I like a big Hurley running back, so I'm going Jaden Ball because there's just something about wearing down a defense late in the game. Just saying, hey, try tackling 245 pounds coming right at you. Can't do it.
All right, we got another question from Arch Torrens. Aside from football, anybody been out to Lexington? So cool with conference realignment to visit all these new to us different parts of the country. I agree. I really wanted to make it out to Athens this year. I don't know if I will. I'm still recovering from an international trip. And if you look at those hotel prices right now, they are not pretty. So, have either of y'all been out there?
I have not. No,
I've not either.
No, but yeah, I can't wait to start making the SEC tour though. You're right. Bobby's going out there, and so is Jeff. I believe Jeff going.
Yeah, Jeff's taking this one, so
yeah,
I'm missing it. I would have. It's probably good. I would have got to Lexington, just kept going north up to the Bourbon Trail.
Absolutely.
You would have saw me on Monday.
I believe CJ on that one too.
All right, I have a question for you guys. What are your top 3 SEC stadiums or towns you want to see?
That I want to see? Ooh,
That's good.
College
Athens
Station's
in there.
last. I made that pretty clear last year after the game.
I've been
Really?
That one was dead last.
Okay.
I thought Gainesville was awesome. I thought the environment was fantastic. The city itself was pretty fun. I want to go see a game at LSU. That's probably
Yes.
right there.
That's
And then
number one for me.
I've heard Neyland is spectacular. So that's probably 1-2 for me. Athens is interesting because I don't really care for Athens.
I've heard a lot of good things about Athens and the game day experience there.
Yeah.
Look, could be the case. I just think that stadium in comparison isn't as lively as really a Jordan Hare. You look at Williams-Brice Stadium as well in South Carolina.
Yeah.
I think Georgia has a very middle-of-the-pack stadium environment.
You went to Alabama, right, CJ? How was Alabama?
I did not go to Alabama.
You did not go. Okay. I thought you went. Okay.
Should have. I could have found a wife in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can do your tour to see which town has the best women.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
We'll get the funding for that quick.
Let us know how the hinge looks in each town. Yeah, I think mine would be Baton Rouge. I really want to go to Oxford, and then
Oxford's fun. Yeah.
Williams-Brice is up there too. I have a bunch of friends from that area. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Just a lot of new towns. I have to say the only Texas game I have been to on the road has been in Lubbock. So that and we did win. So I think it was one of the last times we were up there. Maybe 2018. I can't remember which year.
The little Jordan Humphrey catch?
Yes, and I was in that end zone when that happened.
Was a cold day.
I was supposed to be a media member from Amarillo, but I told my boss I'm clocking out for the night. I'll just be on the sideline with my press pass. And I tried so hard not to yell at that one, but I did not succeed.
I was at that same game, Amanda.
Oh,
Problem was my ticket was in the Texas Tech parent section around the 50-yard line.
What?
Very cold.
It was a cold game. There's like a picture of me just like huddled, and that's Amarillo and Lubbock this time of year for you.
No, I got bad memories of Lubbock. Last time I went to Lubbock, I don't want to.
You don't want to talk about it?
No, bad memories every time I go.
We don't gotta go back there anymore. I mean, I lived in that area for 2.5 years, and I have no any desire to. I was on TV in Amarillo, so no desire to return and suck up dust constantly. So.
Nice.
I got another super chat from Paxton. Send the house at these quarterbacks. PK should have sent the house towards Florida QB. I mean,
he blitzed actually a little. I would say situationally versus Oklahoma. You saw him blitz earlier, be more aggressive early in the game than he usually would. I think once he figured out that John Mateer really couldn't complete passes vertically downfield and can only do so much damage in the passing game, then he decided not to roll the dice and decided, you know what, we're just going to play it safe because John Mateer can only hurt us if, something crazy happens, somebody falls, slips, whatever. So I think in PK's, it's not really his nature to be aggressive and blitz a lot. Since he's been here, he likes organic pressure. What I would like to see him do is do more simulated pressures. If that's the case, send 4, but it looks and smells like a blitz. Blitz is when you send 5, but it smells and looks like a blitz. And you can send 4 and drop 2 and send, different combinations of guys. I think that's what you want to see him see and run more twists and stunts and games up front with your linebackers and with your defensive line to try to get free rushers or scheme guys free in pass rushing scenarios. So I think that's what you'll get from PK, but he's just not a guy that likes to light up the opposing quarterback, CJ. We just haven't really seen that a ton from PK. Like I said, he was actually pretty aggressive versus Mateer, and most of y'all thought he was being conservative.
Yeah.
He was probably more aggressive than he's been recently, but that's just kind of who he is.
Got one more question from Hefty Taco that I want to get to. The question is, can Texas finish 10-2? Seems like a stretch at this point. I mean, there's just no room for error at this point.
There's not.
That's the hole you've stepped into.
That's scary because it's razor thin, to your point.
Yeah.
You don't have an opportunity to slip up going to Athens, right? And look, the way the Mississippi State is playing, I hate to even gloss over the fact that they're playing their best football in multiple years now.
Yeah.
That game could be pretty challenging. We'll see what a a Petrino, Arkansas looks like when they come to Austin. That defense is bad, but that offense can score on just about anybody. And, of course, Texas A&M. So you have to win out right now, right? But the way that college football is looking at the moment, I don't think a 3-loss Texas gets in. I don't. And Peyton, good to see you in the chat. You're a road warrior. Texas is going to have to be a road warrior as well this weekend, next weekend, and going to Athens. If they fall on any of those three, well, it's looking like we're going to, was it Boca Raton for the Boca Bowl?
Oh, come on.
I wouldn't hate.
Nice vacation. I mean, it's probably warmer there that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's going to be I think there'll be another loss on the schedule somewhere, unless the offense takes a huge step forward. Because right now, what's kind of holding you back is your offense is inconsistent. Even against Oklahoma, we saw them. They were great on third down in some critical moments. We like what we saw from Arch. We like what we saw from the offensive line, the running game. But how many touchdowns did they score? So I think ultimately, if the offense starts hitting its groove and Arch, starts to, play like he did versus Oklahoma in more consistent critical moments, that's the key to me for Texas going on this run. It's about the offense. I think the defense will keep you in every game. Your special teams looks good right now too. It's a weapon for you. Your offense. Will we see regression there? You got injuries on the O-line, injuries at running back, some things kind of holding you back on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think their only shot at this point is the offense just needs to do just enough. I mean, It's what you said coming into season is this offense, it's taken a step back. That's obvious. And your defense is going to keep you in these games. I mean, look at A&M game last year. Was not a high scoring game. It was still a W at the end of the day. So it's as long as your defense can keep you in these games. And I think that's why there was a lot of concern after Florida. The defense was not keeping you in that game.
Yep.
So I think that's the biggest thing.
I've been keeping track of this stat. I think it's updated here. 27-3 over the last 2.5 years since the beginning of 2023. When Texas scores 21 points or more, they added a loss to that tally in Gainesville. 27-3 when you score 21 points or more.
There you go.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I feel like if they continue that, they have a chance to do that 10-2. So we will see how that goes. Do you guys have a prediction for this weekend? I know CJ didn't want to give it to us last week, and he was proven very wrong last week.
I was right. If I'm going down, Rod's coming with me.
I was terrible. Yeah, I was wrong last week. It was terrible. I think I was still I was so hurt from the Florida game that I didn't want to that I picked the wrong thing in this game. I looked at that Texas team from the Florida game perspective instead of looking at them going to the Oklahoma game. But either way,
this is a fair assessment. 9-3 probably coming for a bunch of teams this year.
Could be.
Yeah, it's great for Texas that Oklahoma had that single digit by its name somehow, some way for that game. So they won't end up ranked this season, but man, does that look good on the resume to say, oh, you got a top 10 win right there. Neutral site field.
There you go. But yeah, y'all got your predictions? You got your predictions ready? I mean, I will say for OU, I did predict, I think, Texas to have 24 points. So it's pretty close there. I predicted OU to score 17, which, you know what? I'm not mad that they didn't.
Hey, Rod.
I think it's another low-scoring game. Yeah.
We'll take this credit, right?
Right, she inspired the team. Their picks for Bullets and if it was, that's awesome. I would love for the guys be that relevant and the guys thinking about. I doubt it very seriously that the guys even give a damn about what CJ and I are picking. But if so, I'll do it again. If I motivate them that much, I will do it again, and I will gladly eat that crow. That crow tasted like Popeye's chicken when I ate it on Saturday.
No, it tasted like a Fletcher's corn dog. That's
it really was. It was delicious.
Deep fried crow.
Yeah, but I'll go low scoring. I'll go. Texas 20. I think I want to say I already put out a score, but I'm probably gonna butcher it here. But I think I said something like 24 or 27, somewhere around there, to like 10, 27-10 or 27-13, somewhere around there. Yeah.
I'm writing that same area code, 27-13. I think is where I had it.
24-10. Thank you. I knew I was close. I got my CTE kicks in. I apologize. 24. There you go.
I think I'm doing like 27-17. Maybe. I mean, I'm still not recovered from the defensive performance in Florida. So
see, exactly. You can't forget it.
PTSD.
I'm like a scolded woman here. I'm like a woman who's been hurt, or you know what I mean? I can't forget it. I can forgive, but I cannot forget, damn it.
Yeah, that's very, very true. All right. Well, great show, you guys. Got a lot of excitement headed up to this weekend. I know we'll have a tailgate, a lot of game day action going on. And y'all make sure to tune into Coffee and Football tomorrow morning. But for this Longhorn live stream for On Texas Football, I'm Amanda Atwell. That's Rod Babers and CJ Vogel. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Have a great night and hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.